Hi guys, Vipin here. Going forward, I will be making a series of videos where I will discuss the basics of some commerce topics. Okay, the basics. When I say the basics, I mean stuff which you have to know, because these are the things they would ask you if you were to attend an interview. They will not ask you like how do you go about making an advertisement. They will go about asking you the basics of what an advertisement is. So when it comes to fundamentals, I've noticed that students have always been pretty weak at that, and colleges have always been terrible in teaching students these fundamentals. So let me make an attempt in fixing the problem by starting off with the basics. So here is my first video when it comes to explaining the basics. So let's start with looking at what is a business fundamentally. Now, when you talk about a business, the first thing that comes to your head is a large multinational corporation with hundreds of employees, those reflective windows, and people wearing ID cards around their neck and going out for a smoke break. Well, not really. When you talk about a business, it can be as basic as a person who's selling golgappa on the street, or a person who's pushing vegetables in a cart, the guy who displays vegetables on a tarpaulin sheet on the roadside. Even that happens to be a business. It's never really the case where, okay, it has to be a large fancy office. So let me tell you, in comparison to the characteristics of a business, by taking a vegetable seller as an example, on why even a simple vegetable seller is also a business itself. Now, firstly, a business is a non-living entity. Now, the vegetable seller happens to be a living entity, but the business that he does, the service that he offers, the benefit that he gives to people happens to be a non-living entity. Okay, then he makes a profit, which makes me want to tell people this very important point. You fucking retards, stop bargaining with vegetable sellers. That 2 or 3 rupees, that discount that you beg them, please stop doing that. The margin that these guys make is always already very little. Please stop trying to take away that margin altogether. You don't do that in a supermarket in such as Reliance Fresh. Why the hell do it for a simple vegetable seller? So coming back to the point, the vegetable seller in fact does make a profit. The profit margin is quite less. In fact, I asked the local tender coconut wala how much does he actually make for every tender coconut being sold. Now the current price for tender coconut in Bangalore is 25 rupees for 1 unit. So one tender coconut being 25 rupees, he makes a profit of 7 rupees per tender coconut sold. So that's a very, very low amount. Around 18 rupees itself is the cost. So you can see that even though the margin of profit he makes is less, it still is a profit. Then it needs capital investment. Now, when it comes to capital investment, if you are a person selling vegetables on the roadside or on a cart, let's say you're doing it through that pushable cart, firstly you need to make an investment in buying the cart itself. You might have to make investment when it comes to buying an electronic scale, which is something which a lot of people use these days, rechargeable electronic scale. That's something which I've seen quite often with these sellers. You will have to make investment when it comes to, say, a small metallic cash box where you can keep your daily earnings. So these are the things which you have to make as a capital investment. Now, don't always think that a capital investment has to be like several hundred crores. It can be something as small as a few thousand rupees itself. And then risk is involved. Now, for a vegetable seller, he has to go about getting rid of all the stock in one day, or if possible in the next day. Remember, these people don't have refrigerators where if today something has not been sold, they can go about storing it in a refrigerator and possibly sell it in the next day. It's something like do or die situation for them. Sell everything or bear the loss of whatever hasn't been sold. So this is something that these guys have to face in terms of a risk. And then what are the ways in which you can register a business? One way in which you can register is sole proprietorship, the most common one. Now, when you want to call someone as a sole proprietor, you call the person as a sole proprietor if they are the only person who have invested capital in a business. Now, I had a couple of colleagues who would argue with me. Their argument is always retarded. They would tell me something like, if the business has many employees working under them, it's called as a partnership firm. No, it's not. You call it as a sole proprietor if there is only one person who has invested money in that business. Now, if you've seen people who sell vegetables on the roadside, you see that the vegetable seller has even got his couple of kids who assist him in the sale of those vegetables. Don't tell me that these kids are partners in that business. I find that fucking stupid. I don't expect that the kids would have earned something and invested capital in that business. They're just employees. They're just like assistants. One person investing capital, sole proprietor. The Golgappa seller, sole proprietor. The vegetable seller, a sole proprietor. Okay? You might even have a person who runs a hair salon, and even that person is a sole proprietor if they are the only person who's invested capital in that business. In fact, the barber I go to, Govindraju, I've been going to that guy for the last 27 years, believe it or not. Govindraju is the only guy who's invested capital in that business. So he, in fact, is a sole proprietor. There are like 6 barbers who work there. They're not partners. A partnership firm. A partnership firm is when you have more than one person who's investing capital in that business. Okay, 2-3 people investing capital in a business, you call it as a partnership firm. There's another type of partnership which is called as a limited liability partnership. Now, I'll do a separate video where I explain what limited liability is exactly. So, limited liability partnership is like a combination between a company and a partnership. Okay. Now, when it comes to partnership firms, you can go about registering your partnership firm, or you can avoid registering a partnership firm. Okay. But in some cases, registration is in fact very much essential if you want to go about settling any legal disputes. Now, unless there's a written document telling that these are the things that's supposed to happen in a partnership firm, you can't really hold any legal claims to certain things. Okay. Now, for example, if I were to say in a partnership firm that my monthly salary is 15,000, and if I end up getting a salary of say 12,000, I cannot really make a legal claim unless it's written in a document that I'm supposed to receive 15k per month. So that's what you have when it comes to partnership. And then you have a company form of registration. Now, how do you go about registering your company? All the details are there in the website, the screenshot I've mentioned, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, mca.gov.in. It's a government website, so you can go there and you can actually see the details of how you can actually establish your company. Now, there are a lot of major companies that you find, and company form of a business is usually considered that it's a pretty big deal. The reason that is because companies are usually big. Take for example the logo that I've put forth there, KPMG. KPMG is one of the largest auditing firms in the world. So company form of registration usually indicates that the scale of your business is pretty vast. Okay, and then the challenges you come across when you go about establishing a business. First, of course, is always the competition. Now, I've always wondered, I should go about asking these guys. I've seen that vegetable sellers are always bundled up together in groups. I want to know, how is it that these guys get along with each other? They're all selling pretty much the same thing. So how is it that these guys actually face competition? That is something that I'm not really aware of. Between each other, how they face competition, I'm not really aware of. But the competition these guys face is certainly businesses like Reliance Fresh. I know a lot of people who prefer to buy in Reliance Fresh rather than the local vegetable seller. So that's definitely a competition to the local guys. And then you have capital investment. Now, for a person like me, investing a few thousand rupees in a business might not seem a big deal. But for a person who's selling vegetables, investing a few thousand rupees is very much a big deal. You might have seen the vegetable sellers who push those carts. You would usually see that the tires that are there on these carts, they are usually without any air, they are punctured, the wheels are dented, the paint is completely come off, the wood is peeling away. All that is something that you would find. Now, the investment they would have made on buying the cart itself is a big expense on their pocket. For them to make additional investments in fixing these assets is certainly something they can't really make again. So that's one of the reasons. It's like, if it's broken, okay, let it be broken. As long as I'm able to carry vegetables in this and sell it, I'm okay with it. Capital is always going to be a big cost for any person when it comes to making an investment. That's one of the reasons why you don't see many people taking up entrepreneurship. They're always worried about the capital investment they need to make. And then, of course, other things that you would find, changes in technology. Things like, for example, there are institutions like bigbasket.com. Now, if you want to buy groceries these days, you no longer have to go about visiting a store. You can always go online and you could go about buying things online. Technology changes is something that we don't really see happen because the change is so rapid. We completely ignore it when it actually goes about happening. Now, for example, I've almost forgotten the days where I have used a dial-up broadband, a dial-up internet connection. I can't even remember how terrible those days were. I know that they were terrible, but I can't really think of those incidents on how slow the internet connection actually was. Changes in technology is definitely going to bite a business right in the ass, and that's something that a business needs to adapt to. And adapting to changes in technology is always going to be a big expense. So this is something, when it comes to the fundamentals of a business, just understanding what a business is. I hope you found the video helpful. If you have any queries, leave them in the comment section below. Go to my website, vipinmks.com. The URL is here, www.vipinmks.com. And you will find some really interesting articles that you guys can read. Anyway, thank you for your time. Have a nice day. Bye.